Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you very much for joining us here at Railbookers for another of our special online presentations. And today we're looking at some of our most exciting luxury rail experiences to consider for next year, 2021, and beyond into 2022 as well. So thanks very much for taking the time to join us today. My name is Anna Davis. I'll be your host for our time together. I'm the UK Sales and Marketing Manager here, and I'm delighted to say that later on in the presentation I will be joined by one of my colleagues, Jacob Ball, who is one of our rail experts here at Railbookers, who's going to speak in depth about one of our fantastic Orient Express trips. So look forward to welcoming Jacob later on this afternoon. So I hope you've got a cup of tea or coffee ready for the next half an hour or so as we transport you through some of our most popular luxury rail trips to consider in the year ahead. Now, we'll start with some really great news, and that is that we are currently in our Go Big for 2021 sale with some fantastic savings. We are running this sale until this coming Friday, the 13th of November, and an opportunity to save up to £500 per couple, all based on the number of nights of your holiday. So for 3 to 6 nights, we're offering a discount of £300 per couple or £150 per person. For holidays of 7 to 9 nights in duration, a discount of £400 per couple or £200 per person, and for holidays of 10 nights or more, a saving of £500 per couple or £250 per person. So great time to get something booked in for next year and finally have something to look forward to, and more information available on our special offers page on that on our website railbookers.co.uk. Now, I know that a number of our attendees today listen in regularly to these presentations. We do have some new names with us today, though, so just wanted to take a little bit of time at the beginning just to give you a bit of background about Railbookers and what makes us different. For those of you that are already familiar with this, hope you won't mind me just taking a few minutes right at the start to go over this. One of the things I wanted to mention really in terms of why customers enjoy traveling with us, enjoy booking with us, it really comes down to flexibility. Our holidays are for independent travellers. They're not group or escorted holidays. You travel independently, and you therefore have the flexibility very much to create the exact holiday that you want to go on. So our holidays really do go anytime, any day, anywhere, and that's from 2 days' time all the way up to 2 years in advance. So we are taking bookings all the way through to November 2022 at the moment. Really, another important point to mention, and we'll discuss this as we go through the holidays today, is that all of our itineraries are customizable. So the itineraries that you see during the presentation today on our website, indeed in our brochures, they can all be changed in a number of ways, whether that's adding in extra nights, adding in extra destinations, perhaps doing the itinerary in reverse. Lots of ways in which we can customize it truly to your exact requirements to make it exactly what you're looking to do. We have a maximum flexibility policy, or a peace of mind policy really, in place at the moment. We launched this in response to COVID back in March, and it's running until the end of the year. So any new or existing bookings made by the 31st of December, regardless of travel date, we then have the option to change, postpone, reschedule, or cancel your holiday up to just 5 days prior to departure without incurring any change fees. Really has created a lot of peace of mind for our customers this year with all of the disruption that COVID has brought. And if you'd like any more information on that, or if you have any questions, do give us a call on the number at the bottom of the screen there, 0203 780 2222, and we'll be very happy to answer any questions that you have. I mentioned that our holidays are independent, they're not escorted. That doesn't mean, though, that when you're traveling, if you have an issue, if you need our assistance, you're not on your own. So you do benefit from our team of global rail experts. We have offices around the world, in the States, in California and in Massachusetts, in Toronto, Canada, as well as in Australia and here in the UK. So really, regardless of the time zone you're traveling in, there will always be somebody available at the end of the phone to assist with any issues that you have whilst you're away if you need our help. And we're very much a one-stop shop in terms of the holiday offer that we put together for you. So we've been working with the rail partners on the screen here, some of the operators worldwide here for just over 16 years now in the UK, and we have access to their fares and to their timetables well in advance of public opening, so that we can put together the whole package inclusive of the rail tickets, but also the hotel accommodation, excursions, sightseeing, transfers, car hire in some instances as well, and we can do that, as I say, up to 2 years in advance. And the last point, just whilst we're on the subject of the rail carriers, the rail companies themselves, just wanted to touch on what's happening right now in these COVID times, and how rail operators are maintaining a safe environment for customers and passengers, actually. And a couple of points just before we look at the points on the screen. This is very much a movable feast, so things are changing week by week. And if I'd delivered this presentation last week, there would be points that are different to this week. So if you have any specific questions on specific rail routes, specific rail companies, by all means do give us a call and let us know, and we can address those individually. The other point to make, of course, is that a lot of the railways worldwide continue to operate as an essential service over the last few months. And that means that as we have started to see increasing numbers of leisure customers back on the rails, certainly last month, and as we move into 2021, they're already very well experienced and well versed at managing staff and passengers on board. But here are just a few broad things that are in place, so you know what is being done when travelling by train. Customers, passengers and staff are expected to wear facial coverings both in stations and on the trains. The vast majority of rail companies have stopped the sale of food and drink on board, and certainly that's the case in the last couple of weeks again, as further restrictions have been put in. That's really to encourage customers where possible to stay in their seats for as much of the journey as possible, but it doesn't mean that you can't take food and drink on board with you prior to boarding, and indeed that is one of the benefits of taking the train, that there is no limit in terms of how much food and drink you can take on board for the journey. A number of the rail carriers have changed their seat configuration and their allocations on board, and not selling all of their seats, so that they can facilitate social distancing and spacing between customers. As you might expect, they've also increased their cleaning regimes, both during the journey in the common areas, but also providing deep cleaning at the end of each service. And something that was in place prior to COVID, but has certainly accelerated since, and that is contactless ticket control, where really minimizing the contact between customers and staff, and using scanning equipment and so on and so forth to really limit that. But that's increased certainly in the last few months. So without further ado, let's now move on to some of our fantastic luxury holidays. Really excited to be sharing some of these with you this afternoon. And we're going to start with an option that is close to home, with our Belmond Royal Scotsman Western Scenic Wonders trip. It's a 10-day holiday with a starting price of £6,449, and it combines some really great rail experiences, as do all of our trips today, really. But a really great combination of the Caledonian Sleeper and the Belmond Royal Scotsman really being the pinnacle of the experience in this trip. Lots of inclusions as well whilst you're away, lots of excursions and sightseeing options. But let me talk you through the itinerary from the map here. So it starts in London, and you will travel on board the Caledonian Sleeper overnight up to Inverness. Now, the Caledonian Sleeper operates 6 days of the week, doesn't run on a Saturday, and it has two lines: the Lowland line, which goes to Glasgow and Edinburgh, and the Highland line, which goes up towards Fort William and Inverness. So you'll travel on the Highland line overnight from London up to Inverness, and have a 2-night stay in Inverness, really the gateway to the Scottish Highlands. And whilst you're there, you have a number of day trips, a number of trips organised, including to Loch Ness and Glen Urquhart Castle, as well as Glen Affric, and a day tour there. So lots to keep you busy whilst in Inverness. Then it's back on the rails down to Edinburgh, and you're initially going to stay in Edinburgh for 2 nights. Plenty of time to enjoy the city tour that's included in this trip, and lots of time to wander around the magnificent castle and some of the cobbled streets there. Lovely, lovely city to spend some time in. After 2 nights in Edinburgh, then you embark really on the rail highlight of this trip, and that's then spending 3 nights on board the Belmond Royal Scotsman. So you'll travel from Edinburgh and travel to some of the destinations on the map there, including Glenfinnan, Bridge of Orchy, the Isle of Bute, Weymouth Bay. We'll go through the itinerary shortly. Then after 3 nights on board, you'll arrive back in Edinburgh and have a further one night stay in Edinburgh before then completing the journey from Edinburgh back to your local UK station. And that's a really important point also to mention. We can take care of your UK rail tickets from your local train station. So if you'd like to join any of our trips from your local station, we can also book that ticket as an add-on to the holiday. So the Caledonian Sleeper, as I mentioned, runs 6 days a week. There are 3 classes of service on board, the classic room and the club room, which both have sort of upper and lower berth accommodation. If though you're looking to celebrate a special occasion and perhaps push the boat out a little, then upgrading to the Caledonian Double is a must on this trip. It's a full-size double bed. There aren't many of them left on an overnight sleeper really in the world. We'll be looking at a few of them today. But the Caledonian Double, there are 2 double beds per departure on the Caledonian Sleeper, so they do sell out pretty fast, but definitely the way to travel if you're looking for a little bit of luxury on this holiday. The main highlight though, as I say, is the Royal Scotsman and travelling through the West Highlands overnight for 3 nights on this. As you can see from the photos, really travelling back to almost a golden age of travel, beautifully furnished carriages there, and second to none service really from the staff on board who will look after your every need. So you start, as I say, from Edinburgh. You'll travel through Falkirk to Graigan-Doran and start the West Highland line. You go past Loch Lomond, you'll climb Glenfalloch and arrive in Speenbridge, and that's really where you are for your first night, an informal dinner to start with, and plenty of time to enjoy the lounge car and some of the onboard entertainment. They do whiskey tastings during the trip. For example, some local historians will come on and talk to guests as well. The following day, you will travel through Fort William with magnificent views of Ben Nevis, of course, and the opportunity to get off the train at Arisaig and stroll along the Morar Sands there, views over to the Cullen Mountains, beautiful part of the world. Then time to visit Glenfinnan Monument and enjoy tea at Inverlochy Castle before you board back on the train and travel south to the village of Bridge of Orchy. Another informal dinner for the second night on board. And worth also mentioning that the food on board is first class, and they make particular attention to serve very seasonal, regional Scottish produce from the land and sea. So very often game will feature, wild salmon, Scottish mussels, very often on the menu, as well as pigeon, for example. Classic kedgeree, often served for breakfast as well. So one thing for sure, you're not going to go hungry on this trip. And then the third day, you visit the Isle of Bute and Mount Stewart before then travelling down to Weymouth Bay. And the third night, you'll have a formal dinner on board as you travel down to Kilmarnock before then coming back into Edinburgh. So lots packed in your 3 nights on board. As you can see from the picture on the bottom right, that's an example of one of the cabins. Important point with the Royal Scotsman is that all of the sleeping accommodation is lower berth bed. So you can see there, bottom right, that is set up for the daytime. And whilst you are enjoying your dinner or perhaps a pre-dinner drink aperitif in the lounge bar above, that will then be converted into your lower berth beds for your evening. There are also single cabins available as well. So that's the Royal Scotsman. Heading further afield, next trip I wanted to share with you is our Grand Glacier Express in excellence class. Now the Glacier Express we'll talk about a little bit today, and Jacob will also mention in his part of the presentation later, but it is really a perennial favourite, the Glacier Express. It's very much on people's bucket lists and a journey I've been lucky enough to do myself a number of times, and what better way to do it than in excellence class, a third class of service that was introduced last year for customers that are really looking to do this journey in style. So this is based as a round trip from Zurich. As you'll see from the map there, It's based on flights in and out of Zurich, but those can very easily be replaced by round trip by rail options. So if you would prefer to rail all the way, then you can do this very easily from London to Paris on Eurostar, a change in Paris from the Gare du Nord to the Gare de Lyon, and then travel on high-speed TGV Lyria services down to Zurich. Very feasible to do in a day, to then start your journey on this Grand Glacier Express Excellence Tour. So you will begin by travelling from Zurich down to Zermatt, and you're based in the magnificent resort of Zermatt for 2 nights, during which time you'll have a day trip on the Gornergrat, the cog railway there. And I know Jacob's going to mention that as well later on. You'll have 2 nights there before then embarking on the Glacier Express experience, and that will take you from Zermatt through to St. Moritz. You'll travel the full length of the Glacier Express journey on this one in excellence class, often nicknamed the slowest express train in the world. It's a beautiful way to travel to see some of Switzerland's best scenery, and a lot of variation in the scenery as it climbs up onto the glacier. You have gorges, waterfalls, valleys up onto the glacier itself, and depending on the time of year, you can find yourself gliding along on the top of the glacier with cross-country skiers either side. So it's really a magnificent way to see this spectacular landscape. A little bit of a view on what it's like to travel on board Excellence Class. As I say, this was launched last year, so there is a first class option, a standard class option, and also this third Excellence Class option as well. You have a lot of benefits of taking the Excellence Class option here. You've got the magnificent panoramic windows, as you can see top right, in the newly refurbished carriages here. And major benefit is that every seat is a window seat in Excellence Class, so everybody has a first class view. You also have really brilliant service from your concierge, who will greet you, take you to your seat, and look after your every need and want during the journey. So you will be served a 5-course seasonal meal as you travel through. You also have access throughout the journey to the glacier bar that you see top left, so you can have as many drinks, alcoholic and non-alcoholic, cold and hot, whilst you travel through, being looked after impeccably throughout. And of course, the destinations themselves worth mentioning here. You do, first of all, have those 2 nights in Zermatt with the magnificent views up to the Matterhorn there on the right-hand side, and that day trip to the Gornergrat for further fantastic views. And then you've also got 2 nights in St. Moritz, known for its 2 lakes. And depending on the time of year that you travel, if you were to travel in the summer, you'll find that one of the lakes is reserved exclusively for swimming in the summer. But it's beautifully located at the top of the Engadin Valley. Some great walks, marked trails to do from the village itself up to higher viewpoints, or just a great place to sit and relax down by the water and have a few days of relaxation. And then the last holiday that I wanted to share before I hand you over to my colleague Jacob is the Grand Circle of the Canadian Rockies. Now, Canada has very often been a destination of choice for Railbookers customers looking to celebrate a special occasion, perhaps, and to experience very much a bucket list or once in a lifetime trip. And we've chosen the Grand Circle of the Canadian Rockies today because it combines 2 really fantastic rail experiences. Not only does it combine the ultra luxurious Rocky Mountaineer for part of the trip, but it also allows you the opportunity to travel on board Via Rail, the national rail operator of Canada, all in the same trip. So this is very much based on a round trip from Vancouver into the Rockies and back again. Just in terms of the pricing, worth pointing out that our Canadian and our American trips, the prices do not include the flight. We can book the flight for you as an additional cost, but the price is based on you making your own arrangements to reach Vancouver, unless you'd like us to book that for you, just in terms of transparency there. So starting price for this Grand Circle trip is just over £3,000, £3,099. Now it starts in Vancouver. You'll have a suggested 1-night stay, but equally if you wanted to extend that, if you wanted to spend longer in Vancouver before the rail journey starts, or indeed longer at the end to enjoy more of Vancouver at the end of your trip, then we can of course book additional nights, and we can do that in any of the destinations as well. So you'll have some time in Vancouver before then boarding the Rocky Mountaineer, and you'll travel on board the Rocky Mountaineer from Vancouver through to Banff. Now, worth just pointing out here that the Rocky Mountaineer itself is a day service. You don't sleep on board the Rocky Mountaineer, but you will travel via Kamloops. So first day, traveling from Vancouver to Kamloops, you'll then disembark the train, stay in a fantastic hotel overnight in Kamloops, before then boarding the Rocky Mountaineer again the following day and traveling further through the Rockies and the stunning scenery through to Banff. You'll then have a 2-night stay in Banff, plenty of time to enjoy the sightseeing tour of Banff National Park. We include admission to the Banff Gondola for those magnificent 360-degree views over the resort. Then it's up to Lake Louise for a night stay in probably one of the most photographed areas of the entire Rockies National Park. Then, after Lake Louise, it's up to Jasper and a 2-night stay in the lovely resort of Jasper, which has a very cozy, welcoming feel. Customers really enjoy their time in Jasper. And on the way, you have a sightseeing tour of the Icefields Parkway there as well. Then after your time in Jasper, then comes the next part of the rail journey, and that's boarding the Canadian, which will take you back from Jasper back to Vancouver with a night on board. Now, the Canadian is Via Rail's flagship rail journey in Canada. It runs from Toronto across the country to Vancouver and back again. I believe it's the second longest passenger train route in the world. Possible to do the full route, of course, with ourselves with a range of our Canadian trips. But on this particular holiday, you get to experience it for one night on board Via for that trip back to Vancouver to end the holiday. Now, in terms of what the experience is like on board, I'm just going to share with you Rocky Mountaineer here. There are 2 classes of service on board, the Gold Leaf and the Silver Leaf. Most of our customers will opt to travel in Gold Leaf. The main difference between the two, Gold Leaf is a double-decker carriage and Silver Leaf is a single carriage. In Gold Leaf, as you see top left, you have this lovely observation carriage with the big picture panoramic windows from waist height round to the ceiling. And that's where you'll spend most of the journey, with 2 magnificent attendants that will serve you drinks and snacks throughout the journey and also provide great commentary as you travel through the different scenery, pointing out different landmarks, the history of the train, that kind of thing. You also get a Rocky Mountaineer newspaper which will chart your route and what to look out for on the way as well. When it comes to breakfast and lunch on board, you will then travel via a spiral staircase down to the lower level of the train to the dining carriage that you see on the bottom left. Now, very, very high level of catering on board the Rocky Mountaineer, all prepared freshly to order by the private chefs on board. They also serve their own range of Rocky Mountaineer wine as well. And then after the mealtime, an opportunity to travel back up to the observation carriage on the top deck to complete the rest of your journey. Just a few additional images here then. So you've got the empty carriage of Gold Leaf there, just to give you an idea of the light and the space that you have inside the carriage. And then also Silver Leaf on the right hand side. As I say, the major difference is that this is all a single level train. You stay in the same seat for your meal times as well as for the general journey. But you still have the same impeccable service. The attendants are fantastic, and you do also get all of the complimentary food and drink as well that you do in Gold Leaf, but just in the same position for the full journey. Moving through with this holiday then, so you have some time in Banff in the magnificent situation of Lake Louise and then on to Jasper as well. Just wanted to give you a bit of a view of travelling on Via Rail's the Canadian as well. So the image on the left hand side is the observation carriage on board the Canadian, where all customers can go and sit and enjoy the panoramic views that you see on the left hand side there. In terms of the onboard accommodation, there is a wide range to choose from, but our most popular options are either the cabins for 2, there are also cabins for 1 as well. The cabins for 2 have daytime seating, as you see at the left hand side, with your personal view over the Rockies as you travel. And then whilst you're in the dining car, the attendant will come and convert those into an upper and lower berth, as you see on the right hand side. Really comfortable way to travel. But again, as with the Caledonian Double, If this is for a special occasion, if you're looking to really make a trip extra special, then prestige class is the way forward. This is the top level of accommodation on board VRL. You get a full-size double bed, one of those very rare things again. This is obviously ready for the evening, but during the day, this is converted to an L-shaped, very comfortable sofa for the privacy from your own cabin to enjoy those views. You have your own attendant throughout the journey. The cabins are heated, really cozy, and it's the only accommodation on board VRL where you have all of your own ensuite facilities, your own toilet, wash basin, and shower. You also, with Prestige Class, get access to the Prestige Lounge cabin area at the back of the train with its own bar, with its own seating area. And a little bit like the Royal Scotsman, actually, during the journey, you will have other people join to provide some forms of entertainment, whether that's wine tasting, whether it's talks from local historians, wildlife experts, that kind of thing. So lots to keep you busy and entertained whilst you're traveling in prestige class as well. And so without further ado, leaving the best very much till last, I'm going to pass over to Jacob, who is going to share his insider information on one of our best luxury sellers, the Venice Simplon-Orient-Express to Venice with the Glacier and Bernina Expresses. Over to you, Jacob.
Thank you, Anna. And yes, my name's Jacob, and I'm really excited to talk to you today about one of our most spectacular rail holidays, the Venice Simplon-Orient-Express to Venice, with the Glacier Express and Bernina Express included. The journey starts, of course, with your Orient Express journey to Venice. You have 3 nights there, then travel through Italy and Switzerland via the Bernina Express to San Moritz, before going via Cote on the Glacier Express down to Zermatt for a couple of nights before heading back to the UK via Zurich and Paris. This certainly gives us a lot of wonderful rail journeys to dive into, and where better to start than the Venice Simplon-Orient-Express. Created in 1883 and quickly known as the King of Trains, or the Train of Kings, depending on how you want to look at it, the Orient Express really gained popularity in 1920 when master glass designer René Lalique installed glass panels and marquetry made of fine woods to really showcase his Art Nouveau style on the train. Fortunately for us, it's been kept in its original design, which means that this journey, perhaps more than any, really gives you a chance to experience a forgotten age of travel within the modern world. And the journey begins from London Victoria, where you take a British Pullman train down to the coast, where you get served a Bellini brunch on board. So it's a really nice way to start your journey in style. When you arrive at the coast, you take a luxury coach under the channel for about 45 minutes. Again, you get champagne on board, so it's all very glamorous, before we arrive into Calais to board the famous Orient Express carriages. When you arrive at the Orient Express, your private porter will show you to your cabin, which most commonly will be a twin cabin. This has an upper and lower berth inside, which neatly fold down into the seating area we can see here, and also a nice example of the fine wooden design I mentioned earlier. They also have on board a cabin suite, which consists of 2 cabins made up into one larger cabin, and they do have one grand suite on board, which has a double bed and a bathroom, and is there for anyone who wants to make the world's most special rail journey that little bit more special. Once you have settled into your cabin and perhaps put on your best evening wear, your best 1920s evening wear, a great place to start enjoying yourself on the Orient Express is the lounge car. It's got a really idyllic blue and gold design. It's the perfect place to relax and get settled into your journey whilst wearing your best evening wear. One of the best places to visit on the lounge car is bar 3674, which is the ideal place to pick up a coffee, an aperitif, a nightcap. It has a really, really welcoming and glamorous feel to it, whilst there is also a resident pianist on board who will certainly be serenading you as you order your drinks. Also there for you to explore are the 3 dining carriages, all with their own individual style and all very in keeping with the tone of the Orient Express. The Côte d'Azur carriage showcases René Lalique's fabulous glass design. L'Oriental is adorned with black lacquer and a winding intertwined design, while Étoile du Nord features the impressive marquetry I mentioned earlier. Again, all very worthwhile going and visiting, especially whilst you are dining on the Orient Express. Whilst you are on board, you will be served a 3-course lunch, afternoon tea, and a 4-course dinner. This will be classic French cuisine with innovative twists, and the standard of food really is excellent and certainly in keeping with the standard of travel and experience you'll undergo on the Orient Express. So they certainly won't be serving you a Big Mac on board, although it is 2020, so I guess anything's possible, but I'd certainly be surprised. After what I'm sure will have been a great dining experience on board, you will be pleased to know that when you arrive back at your cabin, your private porter will have already set up your sleeping accommodation for you, so you can just settle in and get a really good night's sleep on the train. Before the next morning, you will have breakfast served to your cabin by your private porter, which will be really lovely for you. And then there is a 3-course lunch, once again served in the day. This gives you a second chance to visit the dining cars. So perhaps if you spent the evening on the Côte d'Azur, then maybe you'll want to sort of spend your lunch on L'Oriental. But of course, it's up to you. You'll continue traveling through the day down through the Swiss Alps and the Gotthard Pass, which will be lovely in itself, before we will arrive into our first destination of Venice. Now, unfortunately, I haven't done the Orient Express myself. Maybe if this goes well enough, I will get to. But one thing I have done is arrived into Venice by train, and that is a really special experience. As we can see here, just to the left, Venice Santa Lucia station is located right on the Grand Canal. So as soon as you arrive, you're immediately immersed into the Venetian culture. Suddenly, cars have been replaced with gondolas, ordinary buildings have become fabulous 15th century architecture. It really is a great experience arriving into Venice by train, but that's not just it. We also will be arranging for you to arrive at your hotel via a speedboat transfer, so either going across the lagoon or winding through the canals via boat. Again, you get to experience Venice in all its glory as soon as you arrive, and it should with no doubt be an absolutely magical 3 days in one of Europe's most historical and mythical cities. After your time in Venice, we will change the scenery up a little bit and travel on up to Switzerland via Milan to Tirano, where we are going to pick up, of course, one of Europe's most famous trains, the Bernina Express. This actually is the slowest train in Europe, and believe me, that's a good thing. You're going to be really grateful to have all of the time in the world to soak in the incredible views as you cascade through the mountains and wind through the viaducts on this wonderful journey. They have panoramic carriages on board, which again make sure you can make the most of the views, but also the interior of the train is really, really nice, and all around it's a great experience, and what a wonderful welcome to Switzerland after being in Italy. Once you arrive in San Moritz, you'll have 2 nights there, of course, staying at a wonderful hotel before the next day. We will travel on up to Cote to pick up the second of our scenic trains and the main rival to the Bernina Express, the Glacier Express. We haven't quite decided ourselves which train we prefer, so perhaps if you take this trip, you might be able to let us know and settle the debate, but certainly the Glacier Express has earned its reputation as one of Europe's premier scenic trains. It pierces right through the heart of Switzerland, traveling from Cote through to Zermatt, which of course, as Anna's mentioned, is where you'll find the Matterhorn. So this train certainly gives you a chance to get great views of the Matterhorn. But even before that, as you're going through Switzerland, passing the iconic Swiss townhouses and alpine skylines, this journey will certainly be a really wonderful experience. One thing that perhaps tips the scales in Glacier's favour over the Bernina is, of course, as we've mentioned, they have excellence class on board. This is the chance to have all your meals and food and drink included, and those slightly larger panoramic windows, again, giving you the best views possible in excellence class. And then however you do the train, it will certainly be a wonderful experience. And when you arrive in Zermatt, we're going to have 2 nights there for you at one of our flagship hotels. And also whilst you're there, you do get the chance to experience the Gornergrat rail. This is actually the highest cog rail point in Europe, so it really does give you unparalleled and unrivaled views of one of the best areas of Swiss skyline, and will really make for a lovely ending to this trip before we set off, as I mentioned earlier, via Zurich and Paris back to the UK. It can be done in a day, so it's nice and easy to get home to complete your holiday. Of course, we've almost all missed out on trips this year, but what this holiday does with the combination of the luxury trains and the great scenery you get to see, this might just be the perfect trip to make 2021's holiday really special. Thanks for listening, and I'll pass you back to Anna.
Thank you, Jacob. Thanks for that. It's great to get your insight there on what is a fabulous holiday. So I hope that's given everybody some inspiration and some ideas of how to treat yourself to a little bit of luxury for 2021. Just wanted to finish off this afternoon with a few other slides, a little bit more information for you. Firstly, with regards to our website, railbookers.co.uk, a whole host of information available on here, specific pages for the holidays that we've talked about, with our maps, itineraries and pricing all the way through to 2022. Further details about our current offers on there as well, and a great trip planning section answering questions about luggage allowance and different classes of service, for example, there too. However, we are very much open Monday to Friday, 9 to 5:30. So if you do have any questions after the presentation is finished, by all means do give us a call on 0203 780 2222, and we'd be very happy to help. As you'll know, we do run these presentations every week, and just wanted to mention some of the upcoming topics that we'll be covering in the weeks ahead. Next week, we'll be turning our attention to Switzerland specifically. We've touched on some of the fantastic scenic journeys today, but we'll be dedicating all of our time to Switzerland next week with our 7 most scenic train routes to take. The following week, the 24th of November, we'll be looking at some of our overnight rail journeys available. Overnight rail journeys really enjoying popularity at the moment with the option for private cabins and accommodation. And the following week into December already, can't quite believe that, but 1st of December will be our top 7 rail holidays to consider, with some of our worldwide further afield destinations in there as well. So do hope you can join us for some or for all of those. If you'd like to get registered, please do pop that in the questions box and we can take care of that. Or alternatively, look out for the invitations coming your way via our newsletters in the weeks ahead. So without further ado, it's over to yourselves for the questions that you've sent in during the presentation. I'm just going to have a quick scan through the questions that have come in, so just bear with me whilst I have a look. I can see a few questions about the hotel accommodation and the options we have available, specifically question about whether you're limited to the hotels on our website. No, the short answer is you're not. We do have a wide range of accommodation, 3, 4 and 5-star typically, in most of the destinations that we sell. You do therefore have the choice in terms of budget, in terms of style, in terms of location. Really, it's about the sorts of holiday, the sort of accommodation that you'd like to stay in. We can definitely make recommendations based on feedback from previous customers, but if there is a specific hotel you have in mind, then 9 times out of 10 we will be able to accommodate that. I can also see a question from somebody that says that they joined late, can they get a copy of the presentation? Absolutely. So you will receive a link to view this recording within the next 24 hours. If you'd like to share it with a partner, to send it on to a friend, then by all means do. Or if you'd like to watch part of it again, of course you can. And also a question in about organising assistance, so let me take that as well. We do have great relationships with the railway, so that we can request assistance in whatever form that takes for you, from the station to the train, to board the train, at the other end of the journey to disembark, to travel through the station. We can of course arrange private transfers from the station to the hotel and vice versa, but really important to underline that then in the destination you are travelling independently, you're not escorted, but on that basis we can provide assistance, as I say, at the railway station and on the train journey itself. So again, if you have any specific questions on that, please do let us know, and we'd be very happy to help and point you in the right direction on that one. I think I've covered everybody's questions there, but if I didn't get to you, then apologies. One of our rail experts will be in touch later today to answer those questions. All that it remains for me to say is thank you very much for joining us, for joining Jacob and I this afternoon. It's been great to have your company. I hope you found it useful, interesting, inspiring. Hope it's given you some great ideas for that getaway for 2021. And we look forward to seeing you on another one of our presentations very soon. Enjoy the rest of your day and see you very soon. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.